Being a master of disguise is a skill that very few people have, but the ones who've become proficient in hiding their true identity have a choice to make. You can use your powers for good, or you can use them for evil. We will be rummaging through both outcomes today. Hello again, Most Amazing Top 10 family. I'm your host, Chadarena, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. With this video, we'll be looking through impersonators who use their skills to have their names forever etched into history with our list of top 10 scary imposters throughout history. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell, and stick around until the end of this list because I'm going to be answering some questions from my Instagram inbox. If you want me to answer your question, you can hit me up through the gram. Without taking any longer, let's get into this list. Coming in at number 10, we have WILHELM VOIGT. There are a few commonalities between criminals and artists. One of them being you're constantly trying to make your magnum opus, the one thing that will be your masterpiece. Well, for William VOIGT, it was disgracing the German military. VOIGT had been in and out of prison, serving mostly for petty crimes, as he was just trying to get by, but then he saw an opportunity to strike it big. This was back in the late 1800s, and because it was a little easier back then to get your hands on military apparel, he was able to makeshift a German officer uniform from second-hand pieces he found around the city. After he was done making his disguise, his plan went into place. See, VOIGT knew that one of the tentpoles of German military culture was never question the person in charge above you. So he entered into the small town of Köpenick. He had adorned his German officer uniform, and he used his newfound power to organize a group of German soldiers and hold them in a town hall meeting. He claimed that there was a con man afoot who had been stealing money from the bank. He claimed that he needed to inspect the bank. He went through with this and ended up stealing $4 grand, and this was back in the 1800s. He was caught a few months down the line, but the story of this heist made him famous across Europe, and when he was released 4 years later, he was a massive celebrity. Coming in at number 9, we have FREDERIC BOURDIN. This is one of the boldest and cruelest forms of impersonation I have ever read about. This goes all the way back to the story of Nicholas Barclay. This was a famous missing person case back in the 90s. Barclay just vanished one day, and for 3 years his family didn't hear anything about him. Then all the way over in Spain, someone claiming to be Nicholas Barclay came forward. This person said they were kidnapped and forced through a human trafficking ring and ended up in Spain. However, this version of Nicholas had brown eyes and a French accent. His family was so happy to see him that they accepted the lie that his eye color changed from experimentation and his accent was formed from being forced to only speak French. It took 5 months, but eventually a private investigator discovered that this was actually Frédéric Bourdin. Bourdin was a serial imposter who made over 500 fake identities. The FBI got involved and he was shipped back to France and arrested. Coming in at number 8, we have DARIUS McCollum. This one is actually kind of sweet. DARIUS McCollum has Asperger's and he has an obsession with trains. He lives in New York, and since he was a child, he has constantly wanted to learn more about trains and work with trains. He might know more about trains than any other person on the planet, but his compulsion for trains got him into some trouble because on several occasions he's impersonated a New York subway official, which is highly illegal. This started when he was only 15 years old. Now you would think that they should just hire this dude because it would seem most people who work in public transit don't even want to be there, so it'd be nice to have at least one person who loves their job. But because of his offenses, the city won't hire him, so he just keeps impersonating train officials. Coming in at number 7 is CYRIL HOSKINS. This one seems strange because the guy could have just been himself. CYRIL HOSKINS would take on the identity of Lobsang Rampa. He used this identity to start a life as an author and make books about Eastern religions. His first book was called The Third Eye and was actually quite a popular book in the West. But eventually everyone found out that this guy wasn't a Tibetan monk and his actual name was CYRIL HOSKINS. I guess taking on the identity of Lobsang Rampa made his claims about Eastern philosophy more legitimate, but he wasn't about to end his con job when people found out he wasn't who he said he was. Hoskin claimed that he was Rampa for the time when he was writing the books. He said that the soul of Rampa came into his body and used his body to script these books. Most people wrote this guy off as cuckoo, but a few people believe that he was actually imbued with the spirit of Rampa. Coming in at number 6, we have David Hampton. Hollywood gossip is always salacious and people want to believe it because it's exciting. So coming up with a con that pulls in the world of the rich and famous seems to be perfect. David Hampton started his racket by going to Columbia University campus and claiming that he was the son of the famous actor Sidney Poitier. But why wasn't he living the life of a movie star? Well, that's because his father apparently disowned him. This both made people feel sorry for him and want to get close to him because they felt like they were touching fame. He would bounce from place to place accepting handouts as an orphan son of an illustrious man. He would go to high-class restaurants, order food, claim that his father, who was Sidney Poitier, was coming to see him and then would never show up, and then he would be gifted the meal for free. He even snaked his way into an evening with Melanie Griffith, where the two stayed up until the late hours of the morning talking and sipping back cocktails. Eventually, this whole scam came crashing down, and although he was never arrested, he had to pay back the thousands of funds which he stole from people. Coming in at number 5, we have Arthur HUTCHINS. This is one of the most famous cases of swapping identity to ever come out of the United States. In fact, it got turned into a movie with Angelina Jolie called The Changeling. It was back in 1928 when Walter Collins went missing. He was a young boy, and the whole Californian town that he was from was looking for him. Eventually, the police found him. He had made his way all the way to Illinois, where the coppers brought him in. His mother was notified and Walter was sent home to his mommy, but when he arrived home, his mother was quick to realize that this was not her son. However, the police were strong-arming her into taking this boy into custody. She went along with the scheme for a week, but eventually came forward with the fact that this was not her son. Even though her family backed her, the police forced Walter's mother to a psychiatric ward to have her mental state evaluated. Thankfully, Arthur eventually came forward that he wasn't Walter, and he had actually run away from his home to escape an abusive family. He was told that he looked like the boy, so he decided he would take the free ticket to California. Coming in at number 4, we have Clark Rockefeller. How long do you think you could fake an identity for? It would be difficult to keep up with all the names and aliases and all that kind of stuff. You think it would be so much easier to just be yourself. No one knows why Clark Rockefeller, who is actually Christian Gerhardt's writer, started to create his fake life, but we do know that he's been living under different pseudonyms since the 1970s. He moved from Germany, and since then he's been bouncing around from persona to persona so much that he has never even filed taxes. In the 80s, he was caught up in a missing persons case in California, but before the cops could catch him, he up and left and had already skipped town and switched to a new identity. But his world would come tumbling down when his wife divorced him and took custody of their child. This lack of visitation with his kids sent Rockefeller into a rage, and he tried to kidnap the 7-year-old girl right off the street. From there, the police got involved, and the whole story of who this man really was started to come forward. He is currently arrested and awaiting trial. I'm sure all the juicy details about this one are going to come out, and it is going to be mind-blowing. Coming in at number 3, we have Mary Wilcox. Before the age of the internet, when monarchies were still common, you could just claim that you were royalty, and if no one could disprove you, I guess people would just have to believe you. That's exactly what Mary Wilcox was trying to pull off. She showed up in Gloucester one day wet and in rags. Everyone was drawn to this strange woman, not so much because she was soaked and haggard, but because she spoke a strange language and had an interesting way about her. Eventually, people were able to decipher that she was actually a princess from the East Indies, and she was now being treated like royalty. She was coined with the nickname Princess Caribou, and for a short time she was the greatest wonder that graced this small town. That was until the truth worked its way to the surface. Eventually, someone recognized her and uncovered that she was actually Mary Wilcox, a simple cobbler's daughter. But her life was now forever changed, and while she didn't become world famous, she would live off the small amount of recognition that she gained from this con job. Coming at number 2 is Arnaud du Tilh. If you're gonna fake being someone else, you really need to commit to the bit. That means going all in, no matter how deceiving you have to be. This story starts back in 1548. A working man by the name of Martin Guerre ran away from his family because his father made claims that he was stealing from him. For 8 years this man was gone, and then out of the blue he returned to a much better life. His wife was waiting for him, and his father's estate was now his because Martin Guerre's father had passed away while he was missing. So this new Martin just moved in. He got back to his old wife and had a baby. Eventually some other family members started to catch on, and they took this to the courts. The new Martin was able to beat one charge, but when the case got brought up again, he was about to slip away, and then the real Martin walked through the doors. Turns out he was surviving with the military in Spain and caught wind of this story and decided to crash the party. This new man was Arnaud du Tilh, and he was sentenced to death. Coming in at number 1, we have James Hogue. You think if you're going to take a fake identity, you would try to keep a low profile. But James Hogue had a different plan. He enrolled in Princeton in 1991 under the name Alexi Indra Santana. He told everyone he grew up poor, and the story spread fast about a ranch hand who had to sleep in a barn. He received a ton of financial aid, and on top of this, he was becoming one of the stars of the track team. At a track meet against Yale, one of the Yale students remembered him. See, James had been impersonating a high school student when he was 26 years old, and he was now 33. He was quickly arrested, but after he served his time and released, he took up a job as a museum guard and tried to steal a gem that was worth $50,000. Yeah. Alright everyone, that has been the list. Now I'm gonna answer some questions. Jovinyo wrote in and asked, how's the Mexican food out there? I gotta say it's pretty good. There's a couple places that have really good tacos. 7 Lives is my favorite taco place in the city. Sectorus wrote in and said, not a question, but can you give me a shout out? I'm from BC. I can definitely give you a shout out. What's up, Sectorus? I hope you're having a great day in my home province of BC. And finally, Electric Star 3336 wrote in and asked, are you secretly a moose? A moose person that has been crafted by the Canadian government. Bro, if I was, there would be no way I would tell you. You think I'm a whistleblower? I'm gonna give up my moose secrets that easily? Come on, dude. Alright everyone, that has been our list. Thank you all so much for tuning in. As always, I would love it if you could like, comment, subscribe, and hit the little notification bell. Until next time, I have been your host, Jay Dorena, and watch out for people who might not be who they say they are. Yeah. Okay, bye. Coming in at number 9 is Coming in at number 9, we have Frederic. Coming in at number 8, we have Darius MCCOLLUM, who is actually Christian. How do you say this? Gerhardsritter. Coming in at number 1, we have James Hogue. Coming in at